Welcome to my channel. If you enjoy this story, don't forget to subscribe and like. On the planet Zorath, a merciless world that spared no one, two blood-red suns hung like glaring eyes in a deep purple sky, their relentless light scorching everything below with a dry, unyielding heat. The black sand desert stretched endlessly, a lifeless ocean shimmering like shattered glass, each grain reflecting the harsh glare into sharp, piercing rays that stabbed at the eyes of any survivor. The wind howled without pause, shrieking through gray stone pillars rising from the sand's relics carved by time into grotesque shapes, silent specters bearing witness to destruction. The air reeked of burnt metal, laced with toxic smoke and ash, while distant explosions rumbled from the horizon, each sound hammering the fragile silence of this desolate land. At the heart of this ravaged battlefield lay the wreckage of a Galactic Alliance transport ship, tilted and broken like a gutted beast, its engines roaring one final time before falling silent. Black smoke spiraled upward in twisting columns, blending into the purple sky, a desperate cry for help no one would hear. Around it, the bodies of Zorathi warriors littered the ground, their towering forms with gray-green skin now cold and lifeless. The glowing veins that once marked their vitality faded to dim streaks, like lanterns running out of fuel. Weapons lay scattered, energy rifles snapped in half, blades warped and twisted mingled with black sand stained by golden blood, a strange hue that glinted under the twin suns, a grim reminder of war's toll. Eva Carter, a 29-year-old human medical engineer, walked through the ruins, her steps heavy but unwavering. Her lightweight combat armor, once gleaming in the ship's hold, was now coated in black dust, scratched and scorched, telling tales of survival on this hellish battlefield. Her brown hair, tied high, was a tangled mess, sweat-soaked strands clinging to her forehead and neck, whipped fiercely by the desert wind as if it sought to tear them free. Sweat streaked down her dirt-streaked face, cutting bright trails through the grime, but her brown eyes burned with a stubborn fire that refused to be extinguished. The tool pouch slung across her shoulder clinked against her hip, a steady rhythm amidst the chaos, holding the instruments that had kept her alive through countless brushes with death. Eva wasn't a soldier, she hadn't been trained to wield a gun or charge into battle, but 3 years with the Galactic Alliance had forged in her an instinct for survival, teaching her to stare down the line between life and death without flinching. Her pace slowed as a faint sound cut through the wind, a hoarse groan, nearly lost in the desert's wail. She gritted her teeth, her breath quickening, and stopped dead when she pinpointed its source. Beneath a warped, blast-twisted metal plate, a motionless figure lay shrouded in shadow. With a resolute grunt, Eva gripped the metal, her muscles straining as she shoved it aside. The screech of steel grinding against sand pierced the air, and as the last piece toppled away, the twin suns' red glare fell upon a living Zorathi Khel-Var, a warrior nearly 2 meters tall, his massive frame now curled like a discarded wreck. His 3-lidded eyes blinked slowly, each flicker a countdown to oblivion, their light dimming with faint despair. One arm had been torn off at the shoulder, the jagged wound exposing alloy bones glinting silver, golden blood oozing in slow drops, seeping into the black sand like a sacrificial offering. Eva dropped to her knees beside him, her breath misting in the stifling heat, and through the translator device at her throat, Khel-Var's voice rasped out, rough as wind over stone. "Human, leave me! Can't be saved!" Eva snorted, a short, defiant sound, her brown eyes flashing with the familiar stubbornness that had carried her through hell. "I didn't ask your opinion," she shot back, her voice sharp as a blade slicing through the air. "Now lie still, or I'll shove sand in your mouth to shut you up." Without hesitation, she dug into her tool pouch, her nimble fingers rifling through metal and wires until she pulled out a small medical scanner, shaped like a compact pistol with a flickering screen. A blue beam swept over Khel-Var's body, data flaring on the display, alloy bones as tough as steel, intricate energy conduits instead of veins, and at the center of his chest, something blazing, pulsing like a second heart, radiating a strange green light. Eva frowned, muttering under her breath, "Holy hell, are you a living machine or what?" Before he could answer, the ground shuddered violently, black sand trembling beneath her as if stirred by an unseen hand. A mechanical roar echoed from the distance, and over the crest of a far dune, dark shapes emerged, Xyris drones, the Zorathi's sworn enemies. They looked like giant metal insects, their sleek bodies glinting under the twin suns, razor-sharp wings slicing through the air with a shrill whine that drowned out the wind. Plasma weapons mounted on their frames flared with red streaks, each glow a death sentence from the sky. They descended faster than Eva had anticipated, their engines roaring a song of doom. Her heart pounded, but her hands stayed steady, diving back into her pouch as if death's approach wasn't enough to shake her. Khel-Var struggled to rise on his remaining arm, his body trembling from blood loss, his voice a fading whisper. "Xyris, they're here for me, for the core inside me. Go, human, before it's too late." Eva glanced at the sky, her eyes tracking the nearing red streaks, then back to him, her brown gaze blazing with unshakable resolve. "Core or whatever, you can explain later," she said, her tone as firm as iron. "Right now, I'm saving you." From her pouch, she pulled a folded prosthetic arm, a human prototype, sleek yet sturdy, silver with flexible joints and LED lights flickering along its circuits like tiny stars. "Bite down," she ordered, her voice curt but commanding. "This is gonna hurt like hell." Without waiting for protests, Eva began attaching the prosthetic to Khel-Var's stump, her hands moving with the precision of a programmed machine. A spark flared as the neural interface connected, blue light dancing in the air, and Khel-Var groaned loudly, his body jerking as if struck by lightning, golden blood splattering from the wound. "What are you doing to me?" he growled, his three-lidded eyes wide with shock and pain, their light flaring as if resisting. "This is alien!" Eva didn't look up, her fingers tightening a small bolt with her multi-tool, her voice cool. "Alien and life-saving, warrior. Now move it, I need you to shoot." Khel-Var stared at the new arm, its metal fingers curling and uncurling, slow but sure, the LEDs pulsing like a living thing's breath. Before he could speak, a red plasma bolt from an Xyris drone screamed down, exploding meters away. Sand erupted in a black cloud, the blast's roar swallowing Eva's shout. "Run!" She grabbed his shoulder, nails digging into his gray-green skin, yanking him up as her legs propelled them toward a small cave nestled among the gray pillars, the only hope in this storm of death. Black sand sprayed into the air like a reverse rain, each sharp grain glinting under the twin suns' red glare as a second explosion from an Xyris drone rocked the ground. The force threw Eva forward, her knees slamming into the sand, but she clenched her jaw, teeth grinding audibly amidst the desert's roar. Refusing to falter, she gripped Khel-Var's shoulder, nails biting into his gray-green skin, hauling him toward the cave, a narrow fissure hidden among the gray pillars, just dozens of meters away but feeling like a mirage in the swirling sandstorm. The Xyris drone's engine screeched closer, a piercing, relentless sound like a pack of steel predators closing in on wounded prey, their vibrations rippling through the air with menacing intent. Khel-Var, staggering from blood loss and reeling from the shock of the new prosthetic, dragged himself after Eva, his three-lidded eyes wide, their faint glow flickering as he stared at the dark shapes slicing through the purple sky. "Move, damn it!" Eva yelled, her voice hoarse from sand and smoke clogging her throat, each word torn from her chest. She glanced back, sweat streaming down her dirt-caked face, her heart pounding as an Xyris drone dove with terrifying speed. Its razor-sharp wings carved the air, slicing through the desert wind like giant blades, metal gleaming under the twin suns in deadly streaks. Its plasma cannon flared red, a final warning before annihilation. Suddenly, Khel-Var halted, his towering legs planting firm in the sand despite the golden blood still seeping from his shoulder. He bent down, trembling hand snatching an energy rifle from a fallen Zorathi nearby, a warped, faintly glowing weapon buried in the black sand, a last relic of the fight. "Are you insane?" Eva shouted, her voice breaking in the scorching wind, arms flailing to drag him onward. But Khel-Var ignored her, his three-lidded eyes narrowing, a spark of defiance igniting amidst his exhaustion. With the prosthetic arm still clumsy, he raised the rifle, metal fingers gripping the stock, LEDs pulsing along its circuits like a newborn heartbeat. "Watch out!" Eva screamed again, lunging for him, but before she could reach him, a brilliant green beam erupted from the barrel, tearing through the air with lethal speed. It struck the drone's engine dead on, the sleek metal predator mid-dive. A deafening explosion split the sky, the drone shattering in a fireball, molten fragments raining down like fiery tears, crashing into the sand with sizzling hisses across the wasteland. Khel-Var stood frozen, breath heaving from his chest, three-lidded eyes wide as he stared at the prosthetic, as if unable to believe the power it had unleashed. The metal fingers still clutched the rifle, faint green smoke curling from the muzzle, and he rasped, voice rough with awe and doubt. "Human, it's strong." Eva paused, panting, then burst into a loud laugh, the sound echoing over the wind and distant blasts from other drones. "Welcome to human tech, buddy!" she yelled, her tone weary yet triumphant. "But don't stand there gawking like an idiot, run!" She grabbed his prosthetic arm again, her small hands a stark contrast to his bulk, yanking him toward the cave, determined not to let this fleeting victory be their death sentence. The remaining Xyris drones wheeled back, their screeches rising into a symphony of death, sharp and unending. Red plasma bolts swept the desert, leaving blackened scars in the sand, each shot an invisible blade slashing through space. One narrowly missed them, exploding just steps behind, the blast showering Eva's back with sand, tearing her armor at the shoulder to expose red, heat-blistered skin. She cursed through gritted teeth. "Damn these metal flies!" But her legs kept pumping, each step a defiance of the Reaper overhead. Khel-Var, awkward with his new arm, lumbered behind, golden blood trailing in a thin, glowing line across the sand, a strange beacon in the darkness of the desert. With a final surge, they dove into the cave's shadow, breaths ragged and mingling with the wind's howl outside. Eva crashed onto the cold stone floor, knees and elbows slamming down, but she ignored the pain, sprawling there gasping, chest heaving like it might burst. Khel-Var slumped against the wall, his towering frame sliding slightly, three-lidded eyes flickering as he regained his bearings after the nightmare they'd fled. Just as they vanished from sight, a red plasma bolt swept past the cave mouth, bathing the outer sand in a blinding glow, but finding no target. The drone's screeches faded, swallowed by the cave's darkness, replaced by a heavy silence broken only by their labored breathing echoing in the cramped space. Eva sat up, brushing sand from her face with a torn sleeve, her brown eyes meeting Khel-Var's with a tired but proud grin. "See? Told you I'd save you," she said, her voice rough but edged with satisfaction. Khel-Var didn't reply immediately, his gaze fixed on the prosthetic, fingers still gripping the rifle as if grappling with its reality. At last, he looked up, his deep voice rumbling from his chest. "You're strange, human. But I don't understand, why do this?" Eva shrugged, digging into her pouch for a small water flask, popping the cap and gulping deeply, water spilling down her chin before she handed it to him. "Because I don't ditch people," she said, her tone softer but firm. "And because you just shot down a metal fly with my handiwork, I want to see what else you can do with it." Khel-Var took the flask, eyeing it curiously as if it were an alien artifact, then sipped cautiously, small gulps. He returned it, his raspy voice cutting through the dark. "You want to know about the core, don't you?" Eva nodded, her eyes lighting with curiosity, the scanner's blue glow illuminating her dirt-streaked face, highlighting her resolve. "Damn right. What is it, and why do the Xyris want it so bad?" Khel-Var took a deep breath, his chest rumbling, and the veins on his chest flared brighter, a tiny flame igniting in the gloom, ready to unveil the secrets of a world teetering on the brink of ruin. The cave's air was bone-chillingly cold, a stark contrast to the searing heat outside, heavy with dampness that clung to the skin like an invisible shroud. Water dripped steadily from stone crevices, each drop hitting the floor with a sharp, clear note, like the slow heartbeat of a giant slumbering deep below. Faint light filtered through cracks in the ceiling, casting a dim glow on moss-covered rocks that shimmered like forgotten gems. Eva Carter leaned against a large boulder, her breath still ragged from their frantic escape, her dirt-streaked hands rummaging through her tool pouch. She checked each item: medical scanner, homemade EMP grenade, multi-tool with the care of someone who'd relied on them to cheat death time and again. Her light armor clinked with every move, rips and scorch marks on the shoulder narrating her near-miss with plasma outside. Across from her, Khel-Var leaned against the rough stone wall, his towering form nearly blending into the shadows, only the faint glow of his gray-green skin's veins pulsing like living circuits. His three-lidded eyes studied the prosthetic arm, a mix of awe and suspicion in his gaze, as if he couldn't believe this cold metal was now part of him. LEDs along its circuits flickered softly, casting small green patterns on the stone, dancing lights in the stillness. "You wouldn't understand, human." Khel-Var finally spoke, his voice dropping low, heavy with the weight of millennia, each word dragged from deep within his chest. He stepped from the wall, his silhouette blocking the ceiling's light, and pointed to his chest, where the veins blazed brighter, like a star trapped in an alloy cage. "The Xyris don't just want me dead. They want the core, the ancient power of the Zorathi. It's here, fused to my spine since birth, as much a part of me as flesh and blood. If they take it, this whole system turns to ash, nothing left but darkness and sand." His breath trembled, the core's light pulsing in rhythm, a green flame struggling to endure in his battered body. Eva paused, her hand freezing midair with the scanner, her brown eyes lifting to meet his, blazing with curiosity and astonishment. She tilted her head, tangled brown hair falling over one cheek, and muttered, "The core? You mean that glowing thing the scanner picked up out there?" She set the device down, standing straight, hands on hips, her gaze locked on his chest as if she could peer through his skin to see it herself. "What is it? Some kind of living battery? Or something crazier?" Khel-Var nodded slowly, his three-lidded eyes clouding briefly, his stare drifting as if lost in ancestral memories not his own, etched into every energy vein. "More than just power," he said, his voice a mournful rumble like wine through the cave. "It's Zoratha's legacy, a miniature reactor, forged by our ancestors from a dead star's heart, thousands of years before the Xyris came. Only chosen warriors, those who swore an oath beneath stone, carry it in their bodies. And I'm the last one left after today's ambush." Eva let out a long whistle, the sound bouncing off the cave walls, shattering the heavy silence, then gave a soft, incredulous laugh. "So you're both the target and the key," she said, slinging her tool pouch back over her shoulder, her movements brisk but her voice buzzing with excitement. "Fantastic. A walking nuke I just happened to save. So what now? Sit here waiting for the Xyris to dig us out and rip that thing from you?" Khel-Var shook his head, his gaze sharpening with resolve, his broad shoulders squaring despite the dried golden blood streaking his skin. "This cave isn't a dead end," he said, his tone firm as an oath. "It leads to an ancient Zorathi fortress, deep underground, a few miles east. If we reach it, I can activate its old defenses cannons strong enough to shield the core from the Xyris, at least until we find another way." "Sounds like a plan," Eva replied, stepping closer, her brown eyes scanning the prosthetic with an engineer's keen interest. She touched a joint, deft fingers tweaking a small bolt, steadying the LED's glow, green light flaring like a promise. "But you sure you can make it? That arm's neural link isn't fully stable. I saw it twitch when you moved hard. If it fries mid-trip, I didn't pack a spare, buddy." Khel-Var raised the arm, clenching it into a fist, metal fingers tightening with a soft clink, LEDs flashing confidently like the fire in his eyes. "It'll have to hold," he said, his voice low but resolute. "You gave me new strength, human. I owe you this life, and I won't waste it." They set off through the dark tunnels, the cramped space widening into winding passages where cold stone glowed faintly from strange fungi clinging to the walls. The fungi emitted a pale green light, fragile as lost spirits, painting the rock with shimmering streaks, guiding the two survivors onward. Their footsteps echoed, each sound a beat in the stillness, blending with the wind's whisper through ceiling cracks, as if the cave murmured ancient secrets in a tongue no one knew. Eva led, her scanner doubling as a flashlight, its blue beams sweeping over stone, revealing every crevice and time-worn mark. Khel-Var followed, occasionally swinging the prosthetic like a test, each motion slicing the air with a faint hum, LEDs dancing on the walls like fireflies. "Hey, Khel," Eva said, her curious voice breaking the heavy silence, rippling through the tunnel like a stone dropped in water. "What do your people think of humans? I've never met a Zorathi before, just heard you're big, tough, and kinda standoffish." Khel-Var paused, his steps slowing as he weighed his words, then answered, his voice a deep grind like stone on stone. My tribe calls you wanderers. Weak, no alloy bones or natural energy like us, not born to fight. But you survive in strange ways like giving me this. He raised the arm, LEDs reflecting on the stone, a shimmering testament. Eva chuckled, slowing to let him catch up, her brown eyes glinting with amusement. Weak but stubborn, she said, her tone light but firm. That's the human way. What about you? Carrying that core can't be easy, right? I see it flare every time you breathe hard like it's alive. Khel-Var nodded, his gaze dropping, heavy with a deep sorrow. It's an honor but a burden, he replied, his hand brushing his chest where the core pulsed. Trained from youth to guard it at all costs, even my life. But now, with my kin dead under the black sand, I'm not sure I'm strong enough. Without you, I'd be out there, blood soaking the desert like the rest. Eva stopped, turning to face him, her brown eyes blazing with unshakable resolve. You're alive, and that's enough, she said, her voice solid as rock. I'm not letting you die, not after I just bolted that arm on. Now let's keep moving. Where's this fortress of yours? Khel-Var studied her, a flicker of wonder in his three-lidded eyes, then nodded slowly. They pressed on, darkness wrapping them like a cloak. But in the cold and silence, a thread of trust began to form, not friendship, not yet, but a bond between two survivors, forced to lean on each other against the shadows ahead. Suddenly, the wind's whistle through the cracks grew sharper, carrying a distant metallic scrape, keen as a blade on stone. Eva froze mid-step, raising a hand to silence Khel-Var, her breath catching in her chest. Hear that? She whispered, her voice so low it nearly melted into the dripping water. Khel-Var nodded, his three-lidded eyes narrowing, their light flaring with alertness. Xyris, he said, his tone dropping cold as a warning. They haven't given up. After hours of navigating the twisting tunnels, the thick darkness gradually gave way to a vast expanse. Eva and Khel-Var stopped before a colossal stone door, 3 times Eva's modest height, its cold surface etched with ancient, swirling symbols that coiled like serpents locked in a millennia-long slumber. The faint green glow from the strange fungi clinging to the walls bathed the carvings, making them shimmer like living gems, as if whispering secrets from an era long buried. Eva reached out, her fingers brushing the smooth, icy stone, feeling a chill that seemed forged from the earth's depths. She tilted her head, brown eyes narrowing as she studied it, then turned to Khel-Var, her voice tinged with skepticism and curiosity. This doesn't look like any ordinary door. How do we crack it open, big guy? Her breath puffed into thin mist in the damp air, mingling with the soft whistle of wine through the stone cracks behind them. Khel-Var stepped forward, his stride steady despite the dried golden blood streaking his shoulder. He pressed his remaining hand, his true hand of alloy bone, against a large central symbol, the veins on his gray-green skin flaring bright, green light spilling from his fingertips like water flowing into the carved grooves. A deep, grinding rumble echoed, heavy and primal, like the growl of an ancient beast roused from sleep, the ground trembling faintly beneath their feet. The door slid open, stone scraping stone in a piercing screech, revealing a cavernous space within a fortress beneath the earth. Towering pillars of a strange, silver-like metal gleamed, the core's light in Khel-Var's chest reflecting off them in shimmering streaks. The surrounding stone walls bore intricate carvings, starships soaring through the heavens, majestic cities suspended in the sky, vivid echoes of a lost golden age now reduced to ghosts. At the fortress's heart stood a massive stone pedestal, atop it a metal sphere the size of a human head, once radiant like a miniature sun, now dulled and dust-covered, its light extinguished by time. The core rested here once, Khel-Var said, approaching the pedestal, his voice low and mournful, as if recounting a dream shattered long ago. He brushed the cracked surface with his fingers, the core in his chest pulsing faintly, yearning to reconnect with its former home. Thousands of years ago, it powered all of Zorath, from sky cities where children played among clouds to starships that conquered the dark between stars. But when war with the Xyris broke out, our ancestors had no choice. They hid it, implanting it in warriors like me, turning us into living guardians to keep it safe. Now it's in me, and I must protect it, even if it costs my life. His breath itched, the light in his chest flaring briefly, a small flame defiant against the cold wind. Eva stepped closer, her brown eyes scanning the pedestal with an engineer's hunger, tracing the faint vibrations humming from the metal within, like the weak pulse of a sleeping creature. So if you fire this thing up, what happens? She asked, her voice edged with excitement. Blast the Xyris out of the sky? Give them a real show? Khel-Var nodded, a rare spark of hope lighting his eyes, his broad shoulders squaring as strength returned. This fortress has ancient defenses, he replied, his tone firm. Energy cannons hidden in the walls and ceiling, forged from star metal and the core's power. They could wipe out an Xyris army in a heartbeat. But I need time to link the core to it, to sync my energy with the system, a ritual I've never performed. Then get to it, Eva said, her voice blunt but brimming with resolve. She dropped her tool pouch to the stone floor with a dry clank, yanking her pistol from her belt and checking the clip with practiced ease. I'll keep watch. No way I'm letting those metal flies crash your party. Do your thing. Khel-Var nodded, a flicker of gratitude in his three-lidded eyes, then turned to the pedestal. He placed both hands on the carved symbols, the prosthetic and the real green light from the core surging brighter, bathing the chamber in a soft, eerie glow, like Zorath's sky before war swallowed it whole. But before Eva could move far to set up a perimeter, the ground jolted violently, stronger than ever before, the metal pillars trembling as if about to collapse. From the ceiling, a shrill metallic screech sliced through the air, and dozens of small Xyris drills punched through the stone, dust and debris raining down like a storm. The machines disgorged a swarm of combat robots, spider-like bots with gleaming metal bodies, red eyes sweeping the dark like living flames, plasma weapons on their joints glowing and primed to fire. Eva swore loudly, her voice ringing over the drone's hum. They found us! I hate these damn robobugs! She raised her pistol, firing a precise shot at the nearest one, the beam piercing its shell in a burst of sparks, toppling it, but dozens more surged forward, their spider legs clattering on the stone like a death march. Khel-Var snatched an energy rifle from the floor, its green muzzle flaring as he stepped in front of Eva, his voice steady as stone. Stay behind me, human! I'll clear a path. The fight erupted instantly, the fortress shaking with blasts and clashing metal. Khel-Var fired relentlessly, the prosthetic arm lending him lightning-fast reflexes, each shot a green beam that punched through foes, exploding robots in showers of sparks and thick smoke. Eva didn't stand idle, her hands dove into her pouch with manic speed, pulling out a homemade EMP grenade, a small metal orb bristling with exposed wires like a steel porcupine. Eat this, you bastards! She yelled, hurling it into the swarm. A blue flash erupted, the EMP wave sweeping through, paralyzing half the machines, their metal screeches dying as they collapsed like puppets with cut strings, legs twitching before going still. That all you got, Khel? Eva shouted, her wild, triumphant laugh echoing over the blasts. Let me show you how humans fight! She drew her pistol, aiming at a charging robot's red eye, a single shot blowing it apart in a spray of sparks, shards flying like iron rain. They moved in sync, Khel-Var meeting the enemy head-on with brute force and his new arm, Eva weaving through with agility and improvised tech to land surprise blows. But the enemy was relentless, more robots pouring from the ceiling, their legs a tidal wave of steel. A red plasma bolt suddenly lanced from the chaos, striking Khel-Var's shoulder with devastating force, hurling him to the stone floor, his rifle skidding away with a hollow clatter. Khel! Eva cried, diving to his side, dragging his heavy frame behind the pedestal, her heart pounding as golden blood pooled from his shoulder, glowing streaks staining the stone. She scanned him quickly with her device, the blue light revealing the core still blazing, though its pulses weakened like a dying lamp. Don't quit on me now, buddy! She snapped, her voice urgent, hands rifling through her pouch with frantic speed. Khel-Var wheezed, his three-lidded eyes dimming, his whisper faint. You, strange human! No one in my tribe would stay for me. Eva shrugged, pulling a stim shot from her kit, its needle glinting under the fortress's green glow like a sliver of hope. I don't ditch teammates, she said, her tone hard yet warm. Now grit your teeth again, we've got a fortress to wake up. She jabbed the shot into his shoulder, and Khel-Var groaned as energy surged through him, muscles jerking, his eyes flaring back to life. He staggered up, grabbing Eva's hand to pull her with him, both racing to the pedestal amid the roar of the robots behind. But before he could touch the symbols again, a cold, sharp voice cut through the fortress's deep shadows. Stop, Khel-Var! From a shadowed corner of the fortress, beyond the reach of the fungi's gentle green light, a towering figure emerged, each heavy step pounding the fragile silence left by the battle. It was another Zorathi taller than Khel-Var by a head, his skin a darker gray, forged from desert ash, with blazing red veins snaking across his body, a fierce glow like burning blood, stark against Khel-Var's green. This was Zorath, Khel-Var's former commander, presumed dead in the bloody ambush on the Black Sands, a man he'd once called brother in the training days under Zorath's purple sky. In his hands was a massive energy rifle, larger than any Eva had seen, its bayonet gleaming under the faint light, sharp as a death warrant. His three-lidded eyes glared with unveiled cruelty, a cold smile curling his lips, baring pale teeth against his ashen skin, like a predator savoring its weakened prey. You're alive? Khel-Var gasped, his voice trembling with shock and doubt, his hand clenching the prosthetic so hard the metal joints creaked, as if clinging to reality to keep from breaking. Golden blood still dripped from his shoulder, pooling in glinting drops on the stone, but his three-lidded eyes locked on Zorath, searching for a trace of the leader he trusted. Zorath's laugh was frigid, a dry sound echoing through the fortress's expanse, his steps closing in, boots striking the floor like a funeral drum. Alive, and stronger than ever, he replied, his voice low and cutting as a blade. I struck a deal with the Xyris hand over the core for power, for a future where our tribe isn't prey, cowering like rats under the black sand. You wouldn't get it, Khel, you're too weak to see the real path. Eva stepped forward, her small hands gripping her pistol tight, knuckles whitening, the barrel aimed at Zorath's chest, her brown eyes blazing like a storm's fire. He means betrayal, Khel, she said, her voice icy, each word a slash through the tense air. He sold you out, sold everyone, just to save his cowardly hide. Zorath glanced at her, his gaze dripping with contempt, like she was an insect beneath notice, his smile widening to reveal deeper cruelty. A puny human dares meddle in Zorathi affairs? He mocked, his scorn ringing off the metal pillars. You don't belong here, wanderer. Your life ends here, and I'll step over your corpse to take what's mine. He raised a hand, and from the ceiling, a heavy engine roar thundered, shaking the fortress. A colossal Xyris robot descended twice Khel-Var's height, its black metal body a solidified shadow, twin plasma arms glowing like fiery blades, red eyes scanning them with lethal intent, ready to burn all to ash. Khel-Var roared, a primal sound bursting from his chest like a wounded beast, charging Zorath, his three-lidded eyes alight with fury, the core pulsing wildly as if about to explode. You dare betray the tribe, he bellowed, prosthetic arm raised to strike. But the giant robot intercepted, its plasma arms slamming the stone with earth-shaking force, cracking the floor in a long fissure, dust flying as Khel-Var leapt back, teeth grinding in rage. Khel, get clear! Eva shouted, her hands diving into her pouch with desperate speed, pulling another EMP grenade, a small, wire-bristling orb, and hurling it at the robot. But Zorath was faster, raising a device that fired a purple energy beam, slicing the air and neutralizing the grenade mid-flight. It fell useless to the floor, sparking faintly before dying. Human tech's pathetic, Zorath sneered, his taunt echoing through the fortress like a premature victory cry. The fight spiraled into a chaotic whirlwind, metal clashing and blasts drowning the wind's howl from above. Khel-Var tackled the robot, prosthetic arm meeting plasma head-on, each blow rattling the fortress, metal ringing like thunder in a storm. He smashed a spider leg, the prosthetic's power staggering it, but a plasma arm swept back with brutal speed, flinging him into a stone wall, his body crashing down with a pained groan, golden blood splattering from his shoulder. Eva darted through the wreckage, her small frame nimble amid the chaos, seeking Zorath, but his energy rifle spat green bolts like invisible knives, forcing her behind a pillar, her breath ragged with adrenaline. "Khel, keep it busy!" she yelled, hands scrambling for anything to shift the tide, sweat streaking her dirt-smeared face. Finally, she pulled a small device, a signal jammer, once used to fix ships back on Earth, compact but packed with human ingenuity. "You want to play dirty? Fine by me," she muttered, flicking it on with a quick press. A high-pitched buzz erupted, jamming waves rippling out, freezing the robot mid-step, its red eyes flickering erratically, plasma arms jerking as controls slipped, engines whining like a wounded beast. Khel-Var seized the moment, leaping onto its back with his last strength, prosthetic fists smashing through its chest, piercing the red energy core within. The robot exploded in a blinding flash and thick smoke, metal shards raining down like iron hail, and Khel-Var collapsed, gasping, his blood pooling beneath him in a golden puddle. But Zorath stood unfazed, his cold smile fixed like an unshakable mask. "You think that's the end?" he said, his voice low and menacing. "The Xyris sent a fleet here. The core will be theirs, and I'll be Zorath's last survivor, rewriting history in blood and steel." He raised his rifle, barrel aimed at Khel-Var's chest, finger tightening on the trigger, red light flaring from the muzzle like a death knell. Eva lunged from behind, ramming her pistol into Zorath's chest, the barrel digging into his gray skin, her voice trembling with fury and adrenaline. "Not if I kill you first, you bastard!" But before she could fire, Khel-Var shouted, "Don't, Eva!" He rose, staggering like a phantom amid the ruins, breath labored but his three-lidded eyes steady with resolve. "He's my cousin," he rasped, each word pulled from a wounded heart. "Let me handle this." Zorath turned, his sneer widening, mockery cutting like a blade. "You won't do it, Khel. You're weak like this human, clinging to the tribe's useless oaths that killed us all." Khel-Var advanced, his eyes cold, stripped of hesitation or pain, clear with purpose. "I'm not weak," he said, his voice a low, solid rumble. "I choose to protect, not destroy. That's what you never grasped." He raised the prosthetic, metal fingers seizing the fallen energy rifle, LEDs pulsing like a warrior's unyielding heart. With a swift motion, he fired a green beam straight through Zorath's chest, the light slicing the air like an invisible sword. The giant collapsed, his body crumpling to the stone with a dry thud, red veins fading one by one, the light in his three-lidded eyes dimming to nothing, leaving only the heavy silence of the fortress, where golden blood and smoke wove a tragic tapestry amid the ruins. But the story wasn't over, not while darkness still lurked. The ground shook more violently than ever, a bone-rattling quake that made the fortress's metal pillars tremble as if on the verge of collapse, the grinding of steel against stone echoing like the roar of a beast caged beneath the earth. From the ceiling, a deep, mechanical hum thundered, ominous and thick, saturating the air with tension. Eva looked up, her brown eyes widening in horror, sweat streaming down her dirt-streaked face as she registered the new threat. In Xyris' fleet emerged not the small drones of before, but massive warships, their black metal hulls gleaming like congealed shadows, hovering in the air like steel monstrosities from the deepest nightmares. Plasma weapons glowed along their flanks, crimson beams flaring like falling stars, bathing the fortress in a deadly light that stripped every shadow bare. Their engines roared, drowning the wind's howl through the stone cracks, a symphony of destruction, with hundreds of red-hot barrels aimed downward, like the gaping eyes of death itself sizing up its final prey. Eva spun to Khel-Var, her voice urgent, cracking over the fleet's din. "Activate the fortress, now! Or we're both dead in this hole!" Khel-Var nodded, stumbling toward the pedestal, golden blood still flowing from his shoulder, staining the stone floor in glowing streaks. Yet his three-lidded eyes held no fear, only the steely resolve of a warrior who'd endured too much to give up now. He slammed both hands onto the pedestal, the prosthetic and the real metal fingers gripping tight, clinging to their last hope. The veins on his chest blazed, the core's green light erupting like a living flame, pulsing fiercely like the heartbeat of an ancient creature awakening. The core linked with the fortress's systems, and instantly, the walls shuddered, a cacophony of clanking metal rising as stone panels on the ceiling snapped open. From the gaps emerged ancient cannons long, gleaming barrels shimmering with blue energy stored for millennia, each one a relic of a lost golden age, primed to roar one final time. "Faster, Khel!" Eva yelled, her voice hoarse from smoke and adrenaline, raising her pistol to fire at a low-flying ship in the fleet, the shot a feeble flash from the muzzle. But her bullet merely scratched its hull, a pebble against the steel wall, and a searing red plasma bolt answered, screaming down near the pedestal with devastating force. The blast threw Eva backward, her back slamming into the stone floor, a pained groan escaping as the air was punched from her lungs. She rolled, clutching her side, but gritted her teeth and crawled toward Khel-Var, shouting over the fortress's roar. "Is it working? Say something!" Khel-Var didn't respond, his three-lidded eyes shut tight, his body quaking as the core's immense energy surged through him, golden sweat dripping from his brow, mingling with the blood on his shoulder. Then, a deafening bellow erupted from the fortress's depths, fierce and mighty as thunder from the heavens, overpowering the Xyris fleet's engines. The ancient cannons fully deployed, their barrels quivering as pent-up energy unleashed, firing blinding white beams, dazzling like lightning freed from the wrath of old gods. The beams tore through the air with ferocious speed, slicing the darkness and piercing the Xyris fleet in an instant. Warship after warship exploded midair, massive fireballs blooming, molten metal raining down like iron tears, crashing into the desert outside with booms that reverberated through the cave. Eva looked up, eyes wide with awe and victory, her shout blending with the blasts. "Hell yeah, Khel!" The fleet's largest ship, a hulking mountain of steel, wheeled to flee, engines screaming in desperation. But a final beam from the fortress struck true, punching through its thick armor, turning it into a radiant fireball against the purple sky, red and green light merging in a breathtaking tableau of ruin. As the explosion's glare faded, silence returned, broken only by the distant clatter of debris hitting the black sand far below, the final notes of a war symphony. Eva collapsed onto the stone, gasping, her chest heaving like it might burst, sweat-matted brown hair plastered to her face, obscuring one eye. She wiped her brow with a torn sleeve, muttering, "All right, worst and best day of my life, no contest." Her voice was weary, but laced with her trademark humor, a lifeline to sanity after the chaos. Khel-Var released the pedestal, his trembling hands falling as exhaustion took hold, slumping beside her, golden blood still seeping from his shoulder, though the core's light stabilized, glowing steadily like a survivor's breath after a storm. He turned to her, his three-lidded eyes glinting with a rare mix of wonder and respect, a flicker of emotion on his scarred, gray-green face. "You saved me, and the core," he said, his deep voice raw but sincere. "My tribe, if any survive, will call you a hero, even as a wanderer. You proved your worth under this fortress's light." Eva gave a tired laugh, leaning against the cold pedestal, gazing up at the punctured ceiling, the purple sky dotted with fading sparks from the Xyris wrecks. "Hero, huh?" she replied, her tone soft but wry. "I just want a hot coffee and a decent bed back home. But since you mention it, maybe I'll stick around, see what else that core can do. It's pretty badass when it's blasting ships, gotta admit." Khel-Var nodded slowly, a rare warmth flickering in his eyes, a crack in the hardened shell of a Zorathi warrior. "You're not like the wanderers from our old tales," he said, his voice low but carrying clear acknowledgement. "I was wrong to think humans weak. You're small, but you fight like a fire that never dies." Eva shrugged, her tired smile widening, brown eyes sparking with mischief despite her exhaustion. "We're weak, sure," she said, her tone firm yet gentle. "But we don't quit. That's what sets us apart from everyone else out there." Months later, in the observation deck of a Galactic Alliance ship orbiting Zorath, Eva Carter stood by a wide viewport, her brown eyes tinged with longing as she gazed at Earth, a small blue jewel glimmering in the endless black of space. Swirling white clouds painted it like a living canvas, sunlight glinting off its surface, a precious gem in the cold void. Her battered combat armor, once caked with black sand and scorch marks, had been swapped for a crisp Alliance uniform, silver gray with a star emblem on the shoulder. Yet her tool pouch still hung across her chest, clinking softly with each move, an inseparable piece of her, a reminder of those death-defying days on Zorath's desert. Beside her stood Khel-Var, now the official Zorathi representative to the Alliance Peace Council. His prosthetic arm, upgraded by Eva, gleamed brighter, its intricate circuits pulsing green, a fusion of human ingenuity and Zorathi might. A small core-shaped badge adorned his chest, its faint green glow a constant echo of what they'd fought to save. "What do you think of Earth, human?" Khel-Var asked, his deep voice resonating in the quiet deck, stripped of the cold distance of their first meeting, replaced by a rare sincerity. He stood tall, his broad shoulders a stark contrast to Eva's slight frame, his three-lidded eyes drifting to the viewport, studying the blue planet with the curiosity of one seeing an alien world for the first time. Eva shrugged, propping her chin on her hand, her tied-up brown hair swaying as she tilted her head. "It's messy, loud, full of trouble but worth fighting for," she said, her voice soft but proud. "Like your Zorath, with that damn black sand desert and twin suns roasting everything. It's got its own beauty though, doesn't it?" She turned to him, flashing a faint smile, her eyes gleaming like they had facing Xyris on that ravaged battlefield. "What about you? How's it feel leaving the dust behind for the stars?" Khel-Var fell silent, his three-lidded eyes gazing into the boundless dark, stars twinkling like embers in the void. His breath came slow, deliberate, as if weighing each word, then he spoke. "I never thought I'd leave Zorath. My tribe was born in the sand, raised under the red light of twin suns, dying to protect what remained. But after everything, after Zorketh, after the Xyris, I see a bigger duty. The core isn't just mine anymore, nor just Zoratha's. It belongs to this system, to the survivors and those yet to come." He turned to her, a flicker of curiosity in his gaze, as if peering deeper into the small woman who'd altered his fate. "But I still don't get it. Why stay with me when you could have run? You owed me no oath, no tie to Zorath. Why?" Eva chuckled softly, a warm sound breaking the deck stillness, her brown eyes shining like they had amid the Xyris fleet's ruin. "Because humans don't abandon teammates," she said, her voice steady yet gentle. "And because I thought you were worth saving, not for that damn core, but because you're you. Stubborn, tough, kinda like me in a way. I couldn't just watch you die under that black sand because of some idiot machines." Khel-Var stared, his three-lidded eyes pausing, then, for the first time, a real smile curved his lips small, just a hint on his scarred, gray-green face, but enough to soften the warrior's edge, a ray piercing his steel armor. They stood there, two beings from different worlds, gazing out at the vastness where Earth and Zorath were mere specks among countless stars. Eva leaned on the viewport's edge, fingers tapping a restless rhythm, then added, her voice pensive. "But you know, I keep wondering, is the core really safe? I mean, the Xyris lost this round, but they're not the type to give up. They could come back any time, with something nastier." Khel-Var nodded slowly, the core's light in his chest pulsing faintly, as if answering her. "I think so too," he said, his tone low but wary. "They lost Zorketh, their fleet, but the Xyris don't know permanent defeat. One day, they might return with power enough to erase all we've built." Eva shrugged, her smile returning, bold and carefree like the day she'd lobbed an EMP at the robots in the fortress. "If they come back, we'll kick their asses again," she said, her voice light but ironclad. "Together like this time. I'm pretty good with EMP bombs, you know. And you're not half bad with that arm I made." Khel-Var nodded, his small smile widening, three-lidded eyes glinting with agreement. "And I'm decent at blasting them with your strength," he replied, his deep voice carrying a rare humor, a nod to their partnership transcending human and Zorathi lines. But the tale didn't fully close there. As Eva and Khel-Var turned back to the viewport, a faint signal beeped on the nearby console, a sharp, brief sound that snapped their heads around. Eva stepped over, fingers swift on the controls, and a holographic map flickered to life, a star chart with a tiny red dot blinking at the system's edge, far from Zorath and Earth's orbits. "What's this?" she muttered, eyes narrowing. Khel-Var approached, the core's light pulsing faster, as if sensing something. "Energy signature," he said, his voice dropping low. "Not Alliance. Not Zorathi. Eva glanced at him, her smile now edged with mischief and challenge. Xyris? She asked, hand already digging into her pouch, ready for another fight. Khel-Var nodded, his three-lidded eyes sharp, not with fear but readiness. Maybe, he said, gripping the prosthetic, LEDs flaring like fire. Or something worse. She laughed loud, the sound ringing through the deck, shattering space's stillness. Good enough, Eva said, brimming with confidence. Whatever it is, we'll handle it. Together, like always. Khel-Var nodded, and this time, he didn't just smile, he stood tall, shoulder to shoulder with her, two small but unyielding figures in the cosmic expanse. The story closed with them staring at the distant red dot, not with dread, but with relentless determination, a testament that humanity, with its stubbornness and ingenuity, had left its mark not just in Zorath's black sand, but in the hearts of those who once deemed them weak. And in the universe's depths, a question lingered, not as a grain of doubt, but a flame of hope. Would this peace endure, or would they one day light up the darkness from that purple sky together again?